It's time to speak on it, speak on it, speak on it. All right now. Woo! It's time to speak on it, speak on it, speak on it. Let's get it. Hey guys, so it's Mr. Smalls here, also known as Educational Fellow, and I have my fellow educator, my friend, Miss Shatira Harvey, and we're here just to talk about some things that have been going on, and we as educators just wanted to highlight a couple things that we feel like is important to us as Black educators teaching in underprivileged, underserviced areas, and we wanted to highlight some of the areas that we feel could possibly have some work and some of the great things that we've seen coming from inner city. In our plans, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get started.
Okay, so what made us even want to have this conversation is because my old administrator reached out to me. Shout out to you, Sergio. She reached out to me and she was like, you know, I miss teaching with you and I miss you being able to address, you know, race relations and stereotypes and being able to teach it to our kids in such a way where, you know, they felt comfortable and she felt comfortable. She's a white female, but she was able to be vulnerable. We all were, and we tapped into some difficult conversations last year and the year before, but previously we both taught at a middle school, and while teaching there we kind of made it our goal to make our kids aware of the realities within society and the things that they're going to go through as they grow up and even now. So we did that by, you know, tapping into difficult discussions, teaching them about forms of activism. Another one of our teachers, Selena, helped them make posters about, you know, Black Lives Matters movement and things of that sort. Diamond created this amazing performance where dramatics did dances and skits that highlighted police brutality and the negative things going on in society. So it just made us want to talk about it. And when she said that she missed me teaching, it kind of like opened my eyes, because I was like, wow, now that, you know, I am elsewhere, I don't really get to tap into those difficult conversations. And it kind of made us aware, like, you know, we're teaching in these places and we had the opportunity to use our voice and, you know, educate our students, but that's not happening everywhere, and it should be, in my opinion. I feel like, you know, because it starts young.
Yeah.
And it takes a village, and as educators, we're around our kids the majority of the time, and I feel like in addition to equipping them with the skills to, you know, succeed academically, we need to equip them with skills to succeed in life in general, and be, you know, positive, I guess I would say, citizens in society. So, yeah.
Pretty much. I think it's so important because when you work in areas such as Camden, you see a range of students, and I think a lot of the range of students you see, like, it's not always about who needs help. It's about being there and seeing them, because I feel like that's always something that I wanted to do. Because going and teaching at a school that I actually was a student at, you notice all the changes and you notice things that you wish could have been better. Just like when you say, when students become teachers and you say, I just want to be everything that, you know, I didn't have when I was a teacher. And, you know, when you see students, you want them to be, or you want to give them everything you wish that another teacher would have gave you. And I felt like that was my mission as an educator. I know a lot of people start off, you know, when it's your first year teaching, thinking you're going to change the world. I mean, that was me. That's what I thought. I was going to come into the school that I used to, you know, run the halls, and I was going to come in there and I was going to change everything. But it does not happen like that, because the key is to make sure everybody's on the same page, to make sure everybody, even educators, staff, administration, is making sure the communication is on point. Because when it lacks something there and we try to hide it, or we just are saying this is not important because we have other things that we need to attend to, that communications get lost. And one person is saying one thing and they're doing another, and then you're getting trapped beyond, because as educators, what are we afraid to speak up because fear of losing our jobs, so we don't say anything, or we're afraid to tell our kids how it really is, you know what I mean, or prepare them for what their future is based on the circumstances and the environment that they live in. Because a lot of times when we look at our guidance counselors and we look at people who are supposed to be preparing these kids for their future, sometimes it's watered down and it's dumbed down to the point where it's like, I'm going to put you where I think that you are going to be successful.
Or they feel like, here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest, and people might take it the wrong way, but a lot of educators who are not minorities feel like we shouldn't present our kids' reality to them because it's too harsh, when in reality, that's their reality.
Go home every day.
So the only people that are uncomfortable with it is you. And you don't want us to teach it. You don't want us to teach it to them because of how it's going to make you feel and your lack of vulnerability. But I feel like it's a way where we can teach kids about race relations and how they, the skills that they need to survive. Because at the end of the day,
it's survival. When
it comes to this, it's all about survival. And I don't mean to be harsh, and I feel like we're diverse people. We have a diverse group of friends and a diverse circle.
But I do feel like once you start talking about a particular race, it becomes an issue, because it's like, what about everybody else? And I understand that, and it's okay, because we love and we care about everybody else. But if something's happening to a particular group, we're going to address it in that nature, because we feel like the kids that are going through this are being highly affected by it. Because at the end of the day, you don't see kids on the forefront at these riots and these protests that are going on, but they're home watching it. They have iPhones, they have Instagram, they have Facebook, they have Twitter, so they're seeing these things. And a lot of times you see some of the kids who don't know how to respond, so they're looking at how their household is responding. So if your household is built on rage, you're going to respond in rage. You're going to respond because your house is built on, racism. So you're going to respond in that way. And a lot of times you see a lot of people apologizing because they don't realize what they're doing is wrong until it's brought to their attention. So if we're educating our kids, if it's not being done in the household, when we have these kids for a whole school year, why are we not using that platform? You know what I mean? I know a lot of people are stuck because that's a big thing. We don't have enough time. We have a curriculum. We have units to teach. We don't have enough time to deal with those things. Or we have only 30 minutes of a class period or 40 minutes of class period where we don't have time to educate them.
The thing is that this is something that affects people emotionally, and this can be included in your social emotional curriculum. It should be something that's included. Race relations, stereotyping, racial bias, all of that type of stuff should be covered, I think, in school. And I think that, even when she said to me, she said, you did so great throughout the week. And I have friends who are not black. I have friends who are white. And growing up, I taught them about the realities, but I didn't do it in a way to where it was condescending. Because a lot of it stemmed from ignorance and not from, hatred. Or it wasn't ill-intentioned. Even some of the stuff that they, grew up on was stuff that they learned at home. So, as their friend and you being a part of my life and me being part of your life, I need to educate you on what's acceptable, what's not, what I experienced versus what you experienced. But at the same time, we were mature enough and we loved each other enough to understand that me teaching you about this is not going to interfere with our relationship. It's not going to make me look at you differently, and vice versa. So I feel like it needs to be that way within the classroom. And we know teaching in urban districts, the biggest thing is to get respect, you need to give it. Right? So I feel like as a result, our educators need to be trained on what it means to show kids that you respect them. Like, the power dynamic needs to be lowered, and that's getting on their level, that's getting real with them, that's tapping into their world. So I think it's important that we should be able to teach kids about what's going on in society and how to use their voice, and to make them aware that they matter. Their voice needs to be heard. What they say is important, what they feel is important, but also how to interact with people that are different from them too, because in a way, kids in urban communities are sheltered too. So, they have stereotypes that they project onto people who aren't like them, who don't come from where they come from. Even, me being black, but I came there and they thought that I came from this huge house, and they was like, oh, Miss Harvey, like, we know you grow with white people, and it wasn't even like that. And I know they didn't mean it that way, but they seen me as different because of the sheltered lifestyle that they live. So I kind of opened them up to, yes, we might have different backgrounds, but I see you and I understand what you go through because I went through it too. I may not express it the way that you may express it, but I've gone through some of the things that you went through. Not everything, but, you know, just letting them know that we're on their side.
Yeah.
And even teaching them to not project stereotypes because, you know, a lot of times they do that too. So I think that it's important to teach them, you know, a ton of different things.
Yeah.
What it means to project stereotypes, what it means to have racial bias, what it means to be, you know, hindered based off of the color of your skin tone, but also how to progress from it. I don't think that we should just only focus on the negative things, but to create a pathway, if it sounds cliche, but of hope and positivity.
And I feel like even if you have these conversations, what I do with my kids is I have conversations with them, but at the same time, if you want to call it exit tickets or whatever people do at their other schools, it's like you have that and then you break down and you say, okay, where do we go from here? And that gives them a platform because a lot of times we talk to them, but we don't allow them to build their own strategies. Because a lot of times when you realize that kids could come up with some stuff that even as adults, I never even thought of that. But their mindset.
When you get pulled over, just comply with the police. But that was things that we were told. But I feel like when you do give them the opportunity to come up with ways on how to attack race relations and the things that are going on within society now. I mean, it's mind-blowing that we did a huge show last year, and this stuff hadn't even happened.
A full show.
An entire show.
Yeah.
We did an entire week of conversations, deep conversations, where even, you know, the teachers who were in there that were white expressed, you know, things that they have done wrong and things that we've done wrong. But
and what did she
open
say
and honest
about being uncomfortable? What was that?
She said that she was uncomfortable, but I still made her feel comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
So
comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like that's important.
And that, I feel like that is the type of, you know, energy that we need to come with all the time. We need to talk about this stuff, and I'm not saying it has to be the center of every single lesson we do.
And we don't have to go
be incorporated, because 1 week and one huge show at the end of, you know, Black History,
that's not enough.
They're gonna have those skills and they might stick with some of them, but it needs to be ingrained in them.
And we're not saying talk about the hard. I mean, if you get to that point, but don't think that these kids haven't experienced anything. You know what I mean? Talk to your kids. Find out. If you realize, okay, they don't know this, they don't educate them on that. I'm not saying go in, show them riots on the screen, show them this on the screen. Everything you do, get parental consent. That's basically what it is. Even as a teacher, you show them a movie that's, you know, not PG or whatever, you make sure you get parental consent. I had a whole binder full of like parental consent, even as far as pictures and stuff like that, so parents knew what I was doing in the classroom and where I was taking it, whether I was putting it on YouTube, making YouTube videos and stuff like that. They all had access to it, so it's not like I was hiding anything. You know, even with my shows, parents understood what we were doing. Our whole Black Lives Matter movement that we did for our show, making signs and stuff. And let's say, you know, schools might not agree with it, but when you teach in inner city, you have to understand the culture, not just of the school, but of the whole culture in general, their livelihood. Where do they go home to? A lot of people are complaining about, you know, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, they didn't complete their homework, they didn't do that. Come on, they gotta survive. Half of the kids that I know are home practically even right now while their parents are out losing their jobs, are home babysitting their 3-year-old sister, and they're only 6.
Or doing what they need to do to
exactly
make ends meet for themselves. But I think that's a good point. But I also think in addition to that, we don't only need to focus on educating, you know, kids who are minorities and blacks, but everyone. So you might teach in a neighborhood that is predominantly white or predominantly, you know, Asian or whatever, but they still need to be educated on the different people around them, because when they go into society, it is a culture shock. And I know that because I experienced it firsthand when I went to Rutgers. I was the only black girl on the side of my floor, and it was a culture shock.
Side note, we both attended Rutgers.
Yeah,
both attended.
New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Shout out, I love the school, but
it
was a culture shock. It was a culture shock. It was a lot of things that, you know, the females around me didn't know about the Black culture, and I had to enlighten them. And at times they came off as ignorant, but as time progressed, my roommates began to learn about who I was, and they became more aware of how they spoke and the things that they said, and they worked on saying things to learn, but not just like being, I guess, not just saying things to be ignorant, but like, you know, they would say stuff and be like, Tara, is that okay?
Yeah.
Like, I would teach them how to, you know, integrate themselves within society with people who are not like them. So I think that it's important to adopt this culture everywhere. It doesn't matter if you are, you know, teaching a predominantly Black
because at some aspect they're going to encounter another race that's not their own. But if you're prepared for it, then further down the line you don't have to think about it. And that's what I'm saying right now. A lot of times people right now are in shock, because a lot of times you grow up, and I say the same thing about Black privilege, because there's a such thing as being Black and being privileged, because there's many times where your parents have grown up from that and they produce these awesome jobs where they don't want their own kids to go through that. So you've been so sheltered that when you come in contact with another Black person that, you know, is not on the same level as you, or parents are not middle class or upper class workers or lower class, you get what I'm saying? You're in a shock because you don't know how to handle them. So being open to that, or wherever you teach, and having that curriculum in place where it doesn't matter, where you can teach a room full of white students, Latino, Mexican, Asian, like anything, you can teach them. That way they have a better chance at grasping not only what it's like. Now, I can't write up a curriculum on what it's like to be Asian. I can't write up a curriculum on what it's like to be Latina. I can do African American, and that's what I know best, but it's not.
Our ending goal is to write a curriculum where every person can express what it's like to come from where they're from, and why they are the way they are, and how we can combine and come together as a group. And you know, it sounds cliche, but color is always going to be a thing, but it should not be the fact of the matter all the time. It should be one part of, you know, who we are, but we should be able to coexist, you know, as one without color. But in addition to that, I mean, even with, you know, people who come from better areas that are African American, I feel like often you said that they're, you know, privileged, but they're sheltered from their realities too. And I feel like they need to be made aware of that also, because I mean, my little brother, I was saying that to, you know, Servo, and even to you. My little brother comes from a good area, but, and I'll show you guys him. But if you look at this picture of my brother, you know, he has on his chain, his ripped jeans. If someone who is, you know, had a lack of knowledge or was stereotypical or whatever, seen him in society, and we've seen him in his, you know,
his ripped jeans, his
cute outfit
chain,
or whatever, we think that he looks great, but someone else might stereotype him to be a troublemaker or a thug or whatever. But my brother comes from a place where we integrate ourselves, you know, different races, we do that. So he has friends who are white that he hangs out with often, but I don't think he's aware that, you know, what they can do, he can't do. So we need to educate all of them and make them aware of how at times the odds are against them. And it's just a harsh reality. I'm not saying that we need to, you know, say, you know, all people who aren't like you are bad, but we need to let kids know how they are going to be perceived throughout life, because it is something that we are progressing towards to change, but it's not going to happen overnight. And it's always going to be in society no matter what. There's always going to be someone who is, you know, racist or judging someone. So we need to make them aware that, yes, you do, you know, live in this bubble where you integrate with people of different races, but when you leave this place, it's a totally different world. A different world. And they need the skills to be equipped to deal with that. And we need to equip people who are not of, you know, color on how to deal with people who are
I think about that a lot, because even like shooting this video right now, and you can see like my tattoos and stuff like that, even though I'm an educator, even though I'm educated, there's still these factors that don't mean anything when I walk out my door. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to say, hey, you know, like I went to school. I shouldn't be having to throw out my accolades and stuff that I've done, you know, because you see a color. Or did I get a haircut? Like, do I look presentable? Like, every day.
You walk in.
Yeah. It's like, even when the situation is the neighborhood that I live in, I would never, not to say, but let's be real, I would never walk by myself. Just plain and simple. If Alex is not with me, and if you know anything about my fiance, he comes off a lighter complexion, not even Hispanic, but white. So a lot of times, even people would think of him as a white male. Do I feel like kind of a little bit protected in that nature? Yeah, because I literally do. Do I let him drive?
And why should you feel that way?
And if we go all the way back,
I even feel that way sometimes when I'm going places or going into stores or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to be stereotyped because I'm with my friend Molly who's white. Like,
yeah.
But why should we have to feel that way? Why do I feel like when I drive, everyone always asks me, why do you have bumper stickers on your car? I have a bumper sticker that I'm a teacher and I went to Rutgers because I don't want to be stereotyped. Because I know at times, you know, I'll drive somewhere and I'm preparing myself. So I got my scarf still on and I wear my big hoops. But when people see that, they categorize me and they stereotype.
That's why I got
to avoid those stereotypes, I have to do things like that, which is a shame that we have to walk around with this safety blanket. And someone seeing me, I mean, I'm not even going to get into the aspects of how you're treated differently by how dark you are.
Yeah.
Because
that's a
I have friends
story.
who are fair skinned that wear big hoops just like me, but me next to them, if they ask who's ghetto, who are they going to point to first? Yeah. Without us opening our mouths to say anything.
And that's why I had a Rutgers license plate. Because I had a Rutgers license plate, I had a Rutgers sticker, I had a Rutgers thing hanging in my car, just because I needed something that would be able to prove that I was not a threat.
And that you were
and that is and
why?
my work ID from the schools that I work at, I always carried it on me, because I'm just like, I need this as evidence. I was probably the most excited about getting a school ID than anybody, because I knew that this could potentially save my life. That's crazy that I never even thought about that, but that was some of the stuff that I did. It was like secondhand nature. Donovan, get a school ID. Donovan, get a work ID. Carry that thing in your wallet. Donovan, make sure when you drive your music's not too loud. Oh, let Alex drive here, because if you're behind the passenger seat, or make sure you take your do-rag off, because, or make sure if you walk, make sure you walking with denim. Don't be looking all in people's houses. Don't look at people, you know, over if somebody smile at you, you know, the general. You know, just smile back or keep it moving, keep your head down and keep it on the go. That's how every time I thought walking my dog, I would never walk. And this is still how I think. Would I let Alex drive still to this day?
But
yes.
Why should our kids have to think about that? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Why should they have to think about that when they're leaving the house? It's a shame. But at the same time, if we don't make them aware of this, they're gonna go into the world not being prepared. And they say, I mean, this is a true statement, ignorance is bliss. So they'll go into the world not realizing how much the odds are against them, and it can get them into trouble, which is so messed up to say, but then not realizing how people perceive them can get them in trouble.
Because they're so not even naive, but they just don't know. They see the good in people, because that's how we raise our kids, and that's how we raise our students in the classroom, to see the good in people. But then when they're spewing, you know, hate onto you, you're kind of like, what? And I would never want my kids to be in this situation. I want you to know that, you know, there's good people out there and there's bad people out there, and you to realize how to decipher between the two. You can be the best person and the good, and, you know, the greatest person in the world. But just know anybody can turn that switch on you, and you're still just another black boy to somebody, or a black girl to somebody. And it's crazy to still think that after all this time, we're still dealing with the same stuff. And I just don't want to be around to have to tell my kids, you know, like, I don't want to see any of the kids that I've taught or the kids that I'm teaching gone. Like, and that's me as an educator.
Your nephews or my brother.
Exactly.
I don't want that to happen. But that's the fear that we deal with.
I want to talk to them about prom and graduation. I don't have to talk to them about, well, make sure you look like this. Make sure you don't get that hoodie. I know you want that. You know, you want that hoodie from that store, but you can't really have it because once you have that hoodie on, you know what I mean? Or don't go to this store around this time, or you can't chill out in front of your house after a certain time, or you can't ride your bike down to this area. It's just ridiculous to limit him on the things that other people aren't. And that's the crazy part about life, that you have to sit down and talk to your niece and nephews about the stuff that they can't do when they're like, well, hey, you know, my friend can do all this, and my friend, you know, could go here and do this, and you can't. I even think about it with traveling. Like, it's so funny that I literally think about that. Like, I never knew how much I value even having Alex until I think about all this stuff that he probably, probably saved me from, but like, even if when we got pulled over, or when we take our flights, or when we travel, and the stuff that, you know, people don't think that's only happening in the U.S. No, it's really happening all over the world. There is this race barrier that's protruding that only, you know, you would notice. And I've seen a lot of even tweets on Twitter of people saying, you know, as an educated minority, as an educated person, make your family members who are immigrants aware that some of their actions are not accepted. And I've seen that from a Latino. I've also seen an Asian person call out, you know, her fellow Asians and say how she was raised as an Asian to see black people as ghetto or less of, and what type of black people to respect. So I feel like it's ingrained in multiple cultures, and unfortunately in society right now we are the bottom of the barrel. It's the reality. It's sad. Always has always. Because people are always to make people aware of how to go against that grain. Yeah. Because I think people are always looking for. Let's look at it this way. So you've been put down. Oh, I'm sorry. So listen, you've been put down for so long, all right, by somebody. So what are you going to do? You're going to find somebody else to put down, so you can see what it feels like and what that power feels like. And I say that all the time. So when you work at a job and your boss is giving you crap, all right, then, you know, you might have an intern that ends up working for you. You're going to give them crap, so you know what it feels like to have that power. Even though you don't have it, you want to know what it feels like, because what rules our world? Money and power. And when you don't have it, you know what it feels like. So when we talk about this pandemic, yes, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, but we're also talking about the millions of people who lost their jobs. We're talking about the millions of people who do not have access to food, who do not have access to the resources that they need, the shelters that they need, the guidance that they usually had to protect them. So that to me is already hard. And where's that mostly happening at? Underprivileged neighborhoods, black neighborhoods. So what do you think they're going to do when they see that, dang, even though we're going through this pandemic, they still find a time to kill us. They still find a time to kill us, even though we're supposed to be home.
And make it seem like we're crazy.
And make it seem like it still amazes me that even though we have a video, people still need evidence. That even when it's right in front of you, you still need to do more research. And that to me is not helping our future. It's not helping our kids, because it's allowing them to think that if I have money, if I have power, I can get away with anything. If I have the resources, or if I have much like the whole world is made up, it's not always about working hard, which I try to tell my kids all the time. It's turning into this whole thing about who you know. And that to me is the sad part, because we're no longer looking at the hard workers. We're looking at, oh, you know such and such? Okay. You know such and such?
Or
okay.
Even, I mean, we even talked about how, you know, our kids, our black boys mainly, feel like their only way out is by
playing
athletes, like being athletic.
Playing sports.
And I mean, that's rooted down to, you know, the olden days when slaves were thrown into, you know, a little area to fight it out.
Yeah, like chicken fights.
And from there, our physique was what mattered. How fast we were, how strong we were, and that transcended
how much money we could win for the other person.
Right, and that transcended into sport,
which is sports, which is football.
That has transcended
how much money?
Sports. So now, you know, a lot of black boys feel like their only way out is to perform on the field.
But I try to tell them as well, you might have that sports, but think about the people who had that sport got injured. And that's all they knew was sports.
And it's a dog-eat-dog world.
And it's a dog-eat-dog world. They will chew you. They will chew you up. Once they done with you, they will chew you up and spit you out, and they don't care.
Just a number.
Just a number. Until you're useless to them, and then you're on the streets and you're on your own. And that's why I'm always telling them, you need to make sure you have your life set up. You need to make sure you have your steps in order. Yes, you want to do this. And at first, when somebody told me I need to have a plan B, I was like, what do you mean a plan B? Like, I have an A and this is all I need. But then looking back on it, it's like, yeah, it's always good to have a plan B, because then you know if this doesn't work out, or don't even have a plan B, you have a A plus. Another one on top of your A, if you feel like you want to stick with this, but let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. And I feel like that's important to keep reaching out and telling these kids and helping them understand what's important in their life and what they need from their life and how we can achieve greatness. And by seeing, I think having a black female educator and a black male educator, and seeing that, and seeing, you know, many kids don't say they want to be educators, you know? They want to be YouTubers now these days. So to have them in class, I can't even remember. I think I didn't have a black teacher until 6th grade probably. I don't know if I had, especially a black male. I don't remember.
A black male. He was Jamaican, but we didn't connect.
Yeah.
He wasn't really integrated within like the like what America was. The American lifestyle. But outside of that, and that was like in high school. But I mean, the ending. I mean, the big point in all of this is that we need to do more, and it needs to start in the classroom.
Exactly.
Also. Not just, you know, at home. We need to integrate these type of conversations in the curriculum about, you know, race relations and so on in the classroom. And I mean, that's going to be our goal.
Yeah, race relations, social, emotional.
Try to create some type of curriculum. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. I'm not saying we'll have it for you next month. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but we want to do more, because when we leave the places we leave, there's not always people there to pick up where,
and we've seen it
where we left off.
We've seen what we could do, and we know that
we've also seen what wasn't done when we left,
exactly,
and then we've seen what isn't being done where we're at. So I mean,
so it's like,
and I'm not saying we're perfect, because God, no, we're not.
No.
But it's just
the passion. I think when you have that passion, and you constantly have your thinking cap on, or you're speaking to your students, because that's important. Talk to your students, see what's going through their mind. And that's why I feel like building something around that is important, because when you realize that a lot of these kids are speaking the same thing that I was speaking when I was in high school or when I was in middle school. So obviously we know for a fact a lot of stuff has not changed if they're still crying and reaping for those same things that they wish that they had, and that they're so similar to the same things that I was reaping for and wishing for when I was in school. So it's just like building that curriculum from educators who know what it's like to be in that position and know what it's like to come from a place that they come from, and then have this curriculum be so well put together that schools that have not even dealt with these type of situations can articulate this to their students who are not diverse in this area but are willing to understand. And that's what it takes.
And
being willing to
who aren't even aware
At all.
Of the things that they do, you know, and how they can be better, and how they might come off to people who aren't like the majority.
Yeah.
So, all right.
But thanks for listening to us. Thanks for giving me your time. If you did listen and giving us your time, because you know, it kind of rambles, it kind of goes on, but we just wanted to, you know, share our thoughts. We've been talking for a minute, and we were like, let's just put
all
this
we talk about. I don't think we've talked about anything regular for like the past week.
Yeah,
6 days.
Like a couple of days. We just been
overkill.
Yeah,
so,
but we understand our message, and we understand, you know, what kids need and what they can benefit from, and how educators can benefit from this as well, and even schools. So it's important to start that conversation and move forward and see, you know, how other people feel.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for checking in.
Speak
up, speak out. Check us out. All right.
Peace.
Bye. Speak on it. Come on. Speak on it. What? Speak on it. What? Speak on it. What? Educational fellow, you better speak on it. We out.